So a French retailer has a listing for The Witcher 3 for Nintendo Switch. Now, initially, it was thought this might be a sketchy retailer, but according to Direct Feed Games on Twitter, I'll link to his tweets in the description below, it is looking more and more legit the more he digs into it. And obviously, a game being listed at a retailer does not necessarily mean we should be taking its existence as fact. Now, it being a European retailer is interesting since, well, The Witcher and the entire studio behind it is created in, well, Europe. So if there was going to be a retailer that had early access listings for things such as The Witcher 3, which might be announced in, say, a January Nintendo Direct, it would be, a retailer in that area. Now, again, I don't know that this is going to happen per se. The Witcher is one of the most highly touted and highly praised Western RPGs in this era, and it has really set a new standard for Western RPGs in general. So when I think about that, I seriously wonder how this game could look and run on Switch. Now, it's obviously possible it could be through a streaming service. However, we know streaming hasn't really happened on Switch outside of Japan, so I'm more inclined to think they would try to localize this. And obviously, we know there are some studios out there that have had some success localizing games for Switch. Panic Button obviously being the most notable, but that doesn't mean they're the only ones that could possibly pull this off. Virtuous, as an example, has also seen some success importing AAA games to Nintendo Switch. Now, I own The Witcher currently. I do not own all of the DLC, unfortunately, just because I haven't finished off the main quest yet. But I do own The Witcher 3 on PC, and it's a fantastic game, and it's actually a fantastic series. I wasn't a huge fan of The Witcher 1, but then they did some massive gameplay improvements in The Witcher 2, and from then on, I really fell in love with this franchise. Now, The Witcher 3 is the end of Geralt's story. I'm not going to spoil things, because I already know how it ends and everything. I'm not gonna dive too deep into spoilers in here, but it is interesting because it's possible they might make another game in the Witcher world someday. It just isn't going to be Geralt, which does make people a little scared because, after all, once we ended off the timeline in Mass Effect 3 for that series, Andromeda didn't necessarily turn out too well. But again, this company is not working for EA. So they are much more likely to get things right. Now, we do know the studio itself is currently working on Cyberpunk 2077, I believe, and it's looking absolutely fantastic, completely played in first-person mode, apparently, and that's a game that I would like to see come to Switch as well. However, I don't know that that's even going to be like a this-generation game. That might be a PlayStation 5, Xbox Scarlet game, but I'm pretty excited to see what happens with that one, just because I really love the work this studio has done on the Witcher IP. So, as for Witcher 3 on Switch, I gotta say that I would love to see it happen. Just like Skyrim, before it, I think The Witcher 3 would be awesome to have in a portable form. Obviously, visually, it's going to be cut back. It's not going to be running at 1080p, so we can already get that dream out of our heads. We'd be lucky to have it hit 720, and if it can hit 720, I think I could be pretty happy with that. They would probably remove anti-aliasing, which is a big processor-heavy ideal. And yes, this is going to probably end up being the worst-looking version of The Witcher 3. Now, I say probably because if you actually grab all of the settings on The Witcher 3 and you set them to the lowest possible, and then you take the resolution and you bump that down as well through the in-game menu in the settings, you can get The Witcher 3 to look worse than, say, Doom and Wolfenstein 2 on Switch, worse than Breath of the Wild, worse than Skyrim. So I don't know that it's going to be the worst possible way The Witcher 3 could look, but it's obviously going to be the worst of the console versions of the game visually. And I honestly don't think this should be a negative per se, just because I honestly think any multi-platform AAA game that comes to Switch is obviously going to end up being the worst-looking version. But in return for having a quote-unquote worse-looking version, you get to take the game on the go. And when you're playing on a smaller screen, the visuals don't necessarily need to be at the same fidelity. As an example, if the visuals were in 4K but it was on that smaller screen, most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that and even 720p, let alone that in 1080 and all that stuff on up. Obviously, where you'll notice the big visual hits will be on the big screen. I have a big 4K 55-inch TV in my office, and Obviously, when I play Switch on there, a game that's running at sub HD is, even with upsampling from the TV, is just not, it's going to be very noticeable. It's not up to snuff with, say, the Xbox One X that currently sits under my TV right now. So, yeah, it's definitely going to have sacrifices, but for taking The Witcher 3 on the go, just like Skyrim, I think those sacrifices would be worthwhile. I really enjoy The Witcher 3. In fact, I'd have to check my Steam profile to see if I spent more time in Skyrim or The Witcher 3, because I love both of those games pretty much equally as the standard bearers for Western RPGs. Now, you can argue Breath of the Wild maybe should mix in there a little bit, but I still don't view Breath of the Wild quite as an RPG. When you play The Witcher and you play Skyrim and then you move over to Breath of the Wild, you clearly can tell Breath of the Wild is not really an RPG. It's definitely an action-adventure game. And I think going from one to the other is the best way to tell that, oh yeah, Breath of the Wild, that's not the same thing. That being said, I'm pretty excited by this news, this rumor, this what have you. And I think probably the primary reason I'm talking about it isn't so much that I honestly know that I could trust this particular retailer. This isn't a Best Buy where we actually had a major leak from Best Buy before E3 came out that leaked a bunch of games that were going to be available to pre-order after E3. So this isn't, one of those massive reputable places like that. When you get an Amazon listing, Amazon listings can be faked, but the listings at Best Buy were definitely not faked and proven to be true as E3 roll along. I think that this listing has a potential to be true, but I'm talking about it because I want it to be. And I think every now and then it's okay to have hope. Think about all the people out there currently talking about the chances of Persona 5 on Switch. We have rumors. There's a rumor that came out literally the day after Joker was revealed for Nintendo Switch, which makes people feel a little suspect about the rumor not existing before it, because it would have been more impressive for the rumor to exist before Joker was announced than after, because after it feels like someone could just be, drawing conclusions and making something up. But we talked about that already, and there's been other things circulating around that, like Sakurai, as an example, visited Atlas, and some people are taking that as confirmation Persona is coming, when really everything surrounding that video and all the advertising that Atlas and Sakurai have done about it have been about Joker in Smash, and it could literally just be about having Joker in Smash. Remember, Joker, probably right about this time, is being put into development for the game as they're wrapping up Piranha Plant. And it would make a lot of sense for Sakurai to visit the studio that founded Joker and founded the Persona series in Atlas, so they could try to make sure they do that character justice. Sakurai is a massive gaming historian, and whether or not he has personal experience with Persona or not, he's going to want to do the character justice, and the best way to do that is to visit the studio, talk to the people who created the character, who work on the games, to get an idea of the personality and the feel of that character and the movesets and all the stuff they think can make work in Smash. So again, I don't think that him visiting this place really has much to do with anything to do with Persona 5, but some people look at that and they're like, oh yeah, that means Persona 5 is coming to Switch. It's like, let's pump the brakes on that a bit, and that's the same thing here. I want to pump the brakes on believing or thinking that this leak is real and we are going to get The Witcher 3, because I can't even wrap my mind around how Witcher 3 would even run on Switch, but I couldn't wrap my mind around on Doom and Wolfenstein 2 either. Now, the difference of those games being they're not open world, so it's a lot easier to get even these high visual games that are in more closed off corridors to work on Switch than, say, a massive open world. In fact, the worst segments of Wolfenstein 2 were in the big open city area, and that was obviously where you have the biggest draw distance and the most stuff going on screen at once, and that was also the lowest frame rate part of the game. It wasn't necessarily unplayable. It would run at 20 to 25 FPS, but that's not good, right? You don't want to ever hear things going below 30 unless it's 28, 29 and hardly noticeable, and it's mostly a frame pacing issue more so than game slowdown. But I'm pretty stoked about this possibility, and again, talking about it because I want it to happen. This is me in my most wishful thinking moment I could think of for this game. The Witcher 3 is one of my favorite RPGs of all time, and I would love to see this on Switch. And for those that are wondering, who have never touched a Witcher game, you absolutely do not need to play prior Witcher games to play Witcher 3. I know that's a sticking point for some people. It's what I'm worried about with Kingdom Hearts 3. I've had some people tell me, you are not going to need to play prior Kingdom Hearts games to play Kingdom Hearts 3, and then I've had other people tell me, well, you probably should play this side game or this game or that game or this, so you have a better grasp of the story. I don't know. My thing with video games is I want every video game, regardless if it's in a series or not, to be able to stand on its own merits. Zelda does this very well. There's a lot of callbacks in Breath of the Wild that if you didn't play the prior games, you might not understand, but that's probably not going to affect your overall enjoyment of Breath of the Wild. It might for some people, of course. It might increase your enjoyment, I guess, but it's not going to hurt your enjoyment if you don't get the references, because the references are just going to fly over your head anyways. But I think that games should be able to stand on their own, and I think The Witcher 3 does a very good job of kind of standing on its own, and the world is so engrossing, and you learn so much through it. You even learn of your character's past deeds, even if you didn't play the prior games. And I think there's actually, if I remember last time, when I started up The Witcher, which was way back when it launched, my save file, I believe it even asked me, if I had data to import from my prior save from The Witcher 2 or not, or if you just wanted to start with a fresh character. So I'm pretty stoked, and I hope honestly that if The Witcher 3 comes, this could lead to The Witcher 1 and 2 coming. The Witcher 1 and 2 could come to Switch. There's no doubt about The Witcher 1 and 2. But if Witcher 3 comes, wouldn't it be sweet to get like the whole trilogy on Switch? That, to me, would be more ideal than just The Witcher 3. Let's get the trilogy and call it a day. Now, again, me getting excited over an old port might seem weird when I have chastised a little criticism towards always getting older game ports, but you know what? The Witcher 3 is just that kind of game. It's the Skyrim of the generation. It's the game that just keeps on giving. Who knows if and when we will get another game in the Witcher IP. They're taking a big break from it now to work on Cyberpunk. So, I don't know. Color me excited. Maybe stupidly so for another late port, but I really don't care. The Switch didn't exist. It wasn't a thing in the marketplace when The Witcher 3 came out. So, hard for me to get mad about it not being on the Switch. I'd rather it be on Switch. And with next year's lineup as it is already, if we get this, if we get more... and the thing is, if we get Witcher 3, that really gives us hope for other AAA games, right? It has to, right? It has to give us hope, because The Witcher 3 is as current-gen AAA as it can get, in my opinion. And if that comes over, and that's an open-world game, I think the floodgates open up on what games are possible on Switch. Heck, maybe this is a debut game for Switch Pro? I don't know. Anyways, I'm Nathaniel Robajans from Nintendo Prime. Be sure to enter our Nintendo Switch Super Smash Bros. Ultimate giveaway. The bundle down in the description of the Gleam.io link. All that's required is that you're subscribed to the channel, and obviously that you hopefully enjoy the content here. Enjoy it so much that you smash that like button and help more of our subscribers see our content. Another way you can kind of sort of ensure you see more content is to hit the bell icon as well. You can also support us at patreon.com/Nintendo Prime. And also on YouTube here, we have like this membership thing you can sign up for. It's a join thing. It's $5 a month. Gives you exclusive, emoticons and all that stuff to use during our live streams. It also gives you access to our Discord server. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch all of you guys in the next one.